Okay. I finally have a Drytron list out of a regional for you. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So we have your Arkham Games online regional breakdown here. And where do you want me to start with this insanity? Because your top 16 is a wild place out here. Because you had 4 Unchained being your most represented deck in the top 16, which I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, it's definitely shown itself as the more powerhouse. We had 2 Labyrinth variants that were sitting in top cut. Okay, that's pretty standard. We had 2 Rika decks. Okay, that's interesting. We also had 2 Dragon Link, also pretty standard. And then we had 1 Infernoble. You had 1 Runic Sprite for higher stuff. I feel like that's a pretty standard deck to kind of see at this point. You also had 1 Drytron. Ooh. We also had 1 Purely. We had a Live Twin Runic Sprite. And then we had what looked like, there were like adventure cards and like Dragoon in it. We're going to chalk it up and call it an adventure control deck for this, because I'm not really sure what it was. Now your top 8, we have 3 Unchained in your top 8. Okay, that's actually pretty cruise control. I'm happy to see that, you know, only one of those was in top 16. The others were in the top 8 block. Okay. We also had 1 Rika Sun Avalon, so one of those did make the upper half of the tournament. I think that's a pretty good, consistent thing to see. We had 1 Dragon Link. Pretty standard to see that this deck is, you know, the whole consistency of this deck is so good. We have 1 Infernoble, so of course you gotta love the fact Warrior Toolbox is still doing its thing. We have the Runic Sprite for higher Duelist out here, so you did get the chance to see that deck advance. And we had a Drytron player. Finally, we get to see what all this Drytron hype has been about for all these last couple of weeks. Because this deck has been slamming all these online regionals. Everybody's looking around like, what's going on here, Robbie? Oh, I'm here to answer that question. Let's pass on over to deck list. All right, so winning our event is Denny Vu here playing the DDD Dark Contract, little Vice King Requiem stuff that we've kind of seen popping around fairly recently with some of the little extenders, because the stuff is actually pretty good. Who would have guessed, right? When you can actually add in some pressure cards on the opponent to make sure that, you know, oh boy, I can actually recover from anything that you're actually trying to do. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. 45 cards. Once again, I know people are like, oh my god, you know, we're playing so many cards. It's fine at this point in time. You don't have to bulk down on all of this crazy extra stuff to be successful. It's probably going to work itself out. And at the end of the day, just don't worry about it. Okay. Unchained has been one of the best little combo decks. And I think this finally answers the question, do we need to be playing Tour Guide in the deck? Because the Unchained group has been coping about that for so long. I hope this finally answers the question if this card is actually good or not. All right. We have Rika Sun Avalon for you today. And you know, this deck actually has a pretty good matchup against Unchained, because you're just going to tribute their little guys off. What's your opponent supposed to do when they're like, tee-hee-hee, just casually rolling on in with their cards and need to be sent to the graveyard via card effects? And you know, you're just rolling con-cons across the field, tributing them off. Yeah, I didn't think that this would be the inherent answer to the meta, but you know what? It actually looks like it might be. Maybe we should see more people explore this, because maybe that's the reason why we've seen less of these builds actually being successful out here. It's because people just aren't exploring the fact that, you know, this is the hard counter to Unchained. I mean, this did end up losing to Unchained, but you know what? That's fine. You just got to get, you know, a couple good tributes off of the Princess Teardrop down here. Your opponent's just going to stare at you and go, I can't believe this. This is actually how this works. All right, next up here is our Infernoble Duelist, and they are playing the triple copies of Red Layer. I actually read a comment the other day because I was like, you know, Red Layer typically seems good in this deck, and I've seen an argument for both sides of the card. Whether or not you're a fan of Red Layer being the little starter to kind of come on down and do its thing, it's definitely been there. Some other little things I want to point out down here. Hi, Schoolmeister, how are you? Of course, they're playing the Shifter in the Droll. We have the 4 books here. And of course, you do see Crossout Designator here being this stupid good power card to smash through anything that the opponent might actually try to punish you with. Do not underestimate this card. This card has gained a lot more momentum as of late, especially with how many hand traps are running around right now. Um, Trust me, this card and this card are some very troublesome things that Infernoble doesn't necessarily really want to deal with. Same thing with this little guy right here. It's not a fun time when the little Droll and Lockbird comes out to play. What else we got going on back here? Hey, it's Draw 6, the deck. I was kind of wondering what had happened to this deck, because I felt like this deck is such an incredible deck. It draws so much, it disrupts the opponent so much. So many people are super upset with how this deck fundamentally plays, and then you're just like, but it vanished. It's like the Avatar, it disappeared one day. And then you look around, and then all of a sudden, Draw 6 is back. That's what this deck feels like. I will say that it is very standard to see that Evenly got cut. Some of the earlier innovations in the format were proving that Evenly was the way to go, but this has long since shifted out. And of course, Whis has still remained in the side deck. Maybe someday you'll be main deck worthy. Outside of that, the inclusion of talents, I think, has been one of the more recent innovations that we're seeing with this in terms of developments, but okay. And also, shout out to Sleipnir here, actually getting some value. Alright, what else we got back here in our... we have another Unchained list. Okay, so we're playing 41 cards this time. We are playing one talent with double thrust. I feel like that's fine. Nothing really changes here. I guess you can get saucy, because we've seen Unchained Soul of Disaster in some side decks. I feel like it does do a lot of work when it needs to, being in the main deck. You kind of pick your poison on which little mode you want to try to play this in. Of course, we're playing triple Book of Moon here as well. We are playing the one Herald of the Abyss. You definitely need to be able to see this card to tear apart the big old cats. Of course, we side the Droll and Lockbirds for the additional hand trap pressure on the opponent. And then, of course, we have some anti-scams down here as well. I don't really see anything else too out of left field. Once these builds really start to get down to the nitty-gritty, they feel very standard. Obviously, you have exceptions to the rule, like Jesse Cotton playing, some astoundingly crazy tech choices. But, yeah, it's a deck that's pretty much in stone. Finally. So this is Drytron. Are people really having that much problem outing a Vanities roller? Like, has this become the issue? Can they not handle, Chaos Max during their turn? Like, looking at this, I expected to see some sort of crazy goo. And this is just, maybe the Kurikaras are saucy, but this feels incredibly standard. It's the illusion that you've always got something saucy out here, but in fact, it's just the right arrangement of what is considered, maybe standard-esque cards at the end of the day. So I'm incredibly happy to see that this deck is doing well. Don't get me wrong. I think that this deck is a lot of fun, but a lot of people are going to have some personal issues at the end of the day for what's to come. Shout out to Denko Rekka down here, still being a stupid good card. What else we got cooking back here? Hey, we have Unchained good stuff. Still playing the Soul of Disaster. So happy to see that. You do see the 6 books here. And there has been a pretty decent argument for, 3 to 6 in this deck. It just depends on how scared of back row you are worried about playing into. Or playing into monsters the opponent might set up. It all wholeheartedly depends on your worries with this deck. I think that the deck is definitely consistent enough that you can play literally into anything and be fine at the end of the day. So that's important. You have Super Polys to also help you with the board breaking as well. And of course, we are playing double Hiking Kaiser down here. We're not playing the Deuce either. It's kind of interesting, but we have to free up a little bit of slots. So maybe we can explore some of the crazier full options that we necessarily wanted to see with this. So, happy to see that Unchained's still doing its thing. And our last list here is, oh boy, this is some big old Dragon Link. We're packing in 47 cards. Only 2 Dark Ruler, no more. That's a little bit interesting. We're still seeing the Red Eyes Black Meteor Dragon with the driver. It's kind of disappeared for a little while. I have liked this tech choice. I find this tech choice to actually be kind of cute for what you want to do. Because, dropping your cards off and making sure that, your Gamma's a little bit more alive has ended up being really, really good at the end of the day. Outside of that, list feels a little bit more standard. nothing wrong with standard things in the meta. It's just, if you're looking for something crazy in terms of innovation, you're not really going to see it all that much. So, that is our breakdown here for the Arkham Games Regional. Please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.